Hey everybody, I'm Ben Yee, Democratic State Committeeman for New York's 66th Assembly District and Secretary of the Manhattan Democratic Party.
I'm Alyssa Stein. I am a county committee member of the 66th Assembly District Part A. I'm secretary of that part, and tonight we're going to do a trifecta.
Oh, are we?
Yes, we're going to do a thing about national, a thing about state, a thing about local politics.
All right, let's get started then.
We're going to get started, and we're keeping this in 10 minutes. And I also want to bring up during our minute interview that today is Dress Like Ben Yee Day.
Is it?
And that's why everybody, including our cameraman Oliver, are wearing hoodies and matching sneakers.
Oh yeah, our sneakers are very much alike right now. Actually, so are yours.
Actually, mine was to match my hoodie, not to match your sneakers.
Oh, I see,
color
because
thing,
brown,
red,
I see. And actually, that works out.
Yeah.
Close enough, yeah.
Okay, so what's our first
Moving
topic
on.
now?
Our first topic is something I don't know much about. Oliver brought it up. Jerry Nadler and the Judicial Committee.
Yes, that's so exciting, guys.
All right.
I mean, if you live in our district.
About for 2018. So Jerry Nadler, he is for this neighborhood. Is he 66th Assembly District? Like, is that the same for national as it is for state?
No. So the congressional districts are drawn independently of the assembly districts.
Okay.
Jerry Nadler's they're quite large. They cover 700,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And an assembly district's only about 160,000.
Okay.
So Jerry Nadler's congressional district overlaps with some of the 66th Assembly District, not all of it, and then goes down through Lower Manhattan and actually down into Brooklyn and has swaths of Sunset Park.
That I did not know. Okay, so Jerry Nadler is awesome. This year he's given tremendously powerful speeches, encouraged people to rise up and to protest. I really have a lot of respect for him. And now he has
just become the ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee.
So what does that mean?
Right. So
how did that happen?
First, Jerry Nadler, one of the things I love most about Jerry Nadler is he's incredibly smart and can retain a wealth of knowledge in his sizable brain.
Yeah, let's have him as a guest.
That would be wonderful to do because he knows everything, but he can talk also forever on any topic.
We could do more than 10 minutes if Jerry Nadler would be our guest.
He is the congressman. Anyway, he's incredibly smart and has a wealth of knowledge in his mind, particularly about procedural elements and legal elements, which is why he was a fantastic candidate to make the ranking member on the Judiciary Committee. Now, how he got there. There was somebody else who was the ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, and that person, whose name I actually forget, I feel bad about this now.
But it will appear on the screen.
We will appear on the screen. He was the congressman you might have heard about fairly recently who had covered up a whole bunch of sexual misconduct allegations and had Conyers, I think it was.
Yeah, Conyers, I think.
But regardless, the person who was the the ranking member, left Congress. I don't know if they've left yet, but they vacated their seat on the Judicial Committee.
Got it.
And Jerry Nadler was selected by the Democratic Conference to go and occupy the position. Now, to just say what that position is, in Congress you have committees. Committees are extremely important because anything that has to do with that issue can't go to the floor of the House without first going to committee. So it has to be approved once before it can get voted on as a whole.
And if you go to Ben Yee's workshops, that's one of the things
we talk about is super important.
Yes.
So there's really only two parties in Congress, the Democrats and the Republicans. So the membership of each committee is split between Democrats and Republicans.
Even or odd number?
An odd number, I believe. I can't attest to that, but I'm pretty sure it's odd. The Republicans, because they're in the majority of Congress, with a majority of the votes on each committee, and then the Democrats are in the minority. The leader of the Republican caucus becomes the chair of that committee, who sets the agenda and basically decides what gets voted on and what the committee will ultimately address during the legislative session. And then the ranking minority member just runs or leads his team essentially. So in this case, Jerry Nadler is leading the Democratic team. If the Democrats retook Congress in 2018, Jerry Nadler would probably, very, very likely, become the chair of that committee.
That is so exciting, and we got the wrap it up and move on signal. So
I'll say one last thing, which is the Judiciary Committee is incredibly important. You should definitely look it up, but most excitingly for folks who really dislike Trump, they'll be in charge of handling any impeachment charges.
So 2018, another reason to flip seats. and give
Quite
Democrats the upper hand. All right, now we're moving on to the second part of our trifecta, which is state.
Yes.
And I think this is amusing, but there's a State of the State address
Uh-huh.
happening next Wednesday, where Governor Cuomo is going to be talking about what's going on in New York. I know that there are going to be protests going on in Albany and across the state about all the things that Andrew Cuomo has not done, has said he'd done, or progressive Democrats feel like he should have done. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, because he is up for election this year.
He is.
And
Or in like a week's time, it'll be 2018, and then he'll be
right.
okay.
So this is yet another year and yet another big election. Cuomo has said he's done a lot of things. He sat on the fence about a lot of things, and so the State of the State should be interesting, because it's going to be like his bid for re-election in a way, talking about all the great things he's accomplished.
Absolutely. And also about his big plans for the future. But I always think you always have to be sort of careful with State of the States or State of the Unions. I don't think I've actually listened to a State of the Union that I thought was like terrible. Even, most politicians, even Donald Trump, they get up there, they just tell you what you want to hear in the State of the Union for the most part. Oh, everything's great, they've got big plans, Congress needs to do this, that, and the other.
Right.
State of the States are very similar.
So it's just a commercial.
Like
a yay
it's an
commercial.
hour-long commercial.
Got it.
Or actually, I guess they can go on for more than an hour sometimes. But Governor Cuomo definitely has a lot of things which I think he'll want to address in this. He'll probably try to leave the IDC and the politics of the situation out.
Independent Democratic Conference, for the
right.
5 people out there who don't know what that is.
But he'll definitely have to talk about things like the MTA and how much he's doing to improve that agency, even though its failure is largely a result of him and his administration and legislature stealing money from it.
I was going to say withholding funds.
Yep. And
that's problematic.
he'll definitely try to burnish himself in the eyes of progressives by talking about the free college tuition legislation that was passed.
As that's all coming out, it's not so great.
It's not.
It's not. And so it's one of those
It's
things.
nice to say, though.
De Blasio is good at those too. It's like a soundbite. I remember AP for all. That sounds wonderful. Is it reasonable for all students? No. Is it doing good in the end? Not necessarily, but it sounds good, and it's a quick soundbite that people can say, right, free college tuition. All right, well, that's going to be interesting. So that's next Wednesday, and we can talk about that afterwards.
Yeah.
And now we're going to move on to our local thing, which is that our local city council person, Corey Jonson,
Yes.
I was going to say is going to be the next speaker of the city council, but it's not official yet.
Correct.
When is the vote on that?
It will be in January when the council first convenes.
So why are people already saying congratulations?
So Corey has announced, so first off, Corey Jonson is the city council member for City Council District 3, which overlaps with the 66th AD, but like Congress is completely independent. So
and
these are all
that's
overlapping
a whole conversation
crazy.
for another show, is the fact that, what the hell?
None of these things line up.
These different lines for these different things. I know for school districts, different than your city council district.
Oh yeah,
One
absolutely.
and max. And so you're never exactly sure, and that's why I still always have to ask when I go to vote, because things shift. But anyway,
But to the point of the speaker, so essentially, the speaker of the city council is very much like the speaker of the House or the speaker of the assembly, which is they run the chamber based on the fact that they have a majority of the support of the majority of the legislators. Right? So what makes Paul Ryan the Speaker of the House is that the Republicans have a majority of the House, and the majority of Republicans, ideally all of them, have selected him as the person who's going to run their conference and therefore de facto run the chamber.
Now here's a question. We've talked about this before, but I read in an article that this will make Corey Jonson the second most powerful elected official in New York.
Yes.
After the mayor.
Correct.
Which is really kind of fascinating, because there are borough presidents
Yes.
who one would think would be more powerful in their own boroughs.
Well, so going back to sort of the analogy with the House for a moment, because we don't have political parties, we have political parties in New York City, but the Democrats basically dominate everything. What Corey has managed to do is garner the support of the majority of all the city council members to have him be speaker. This means that Jonson will be running the city council and be able to do things like set the agenda, the legislative agenda, decide whether bills come to the floor or what have you. He'll have some discretion over what money city councilors get to spend in their districts. This was a big issue when Chris Quinn was a city council speaker, the doling out of public funds for city councilors to spend in their districts. They all get these things called member items,
Right.
and so the giving or withholding of that money is a lot of leverage that a speaker
Right, so
can
he's
have.
powerful.
Quite powerful. And then the borough presidents used to be very powerful. They used to have a lot of say over the city budget, but that power was stripped from them in the 70s. And so the city council is really the main entity that spars with the mayor over how to spend and create New York City's, multi-billion-dollar budget.
So are borough presidents more of a figurehead, kind of?
They are now.
They are now. So
Yes.
they're meet and greet, have meetings, go to events, but they're not involved in the legislative day-to-day of running the city anymore.
Right.
Or even of their borough.
What borough presidents have left is they have money they can spend on community projects within their borough, and then they also have the ability to introduce legislation. But they have no vote in the city council.
Interesting. So they would introduce legislation, but then the city council would be the ones to vote and choose to pass.
Right, and they used to have approval power, I believe, basically over the budget in what was a separate body, which was the borough presidents voting as a group. But that was disbanded.
Oh. Well, maybe we can get our borough president, Gail Brewer, in to talk.
Goodness. She's fantastic.
Gail
Manhattan's
Brewer
borough
is
president is
fantastic.
one of the best,
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah, well, we'll invite her. All right, and on that note, this is going to be our last show for 2017.
Oh my goodness, we've been doing this for some time now.
We have. 2018 is all about flipping votes. It's all about working towards elections. It's all about making change happen. And until then,
See you in the new year.
see you soon.
Laters.